If you're driving in your car and you are not breaking any laws, are the police allowed to stop you? And the short answer is no, they are not. But there's a big caveat. Because if you are breaking even the smallest insignificant law, then the police are allowed to stop you. And that goes to even being a single mile per hour over the speed limit, or going through a stop sign. Any tiny little thing can happen. And there's a Supreme Court case where this guy, he didn't have his license plate bolted on. He actually had baling wire attached to it. And the Supreme Court upheld that stop, that the police had a reason to stop this car and talk to this person because his license plate wasn't fastened on right. And that's what you're going against. You're going against a lot of statutes in Minnesota. Here's just a look at the statutes, the criminal statutes, and that actually doesn't even include all of them. That's just most of the statutes in Minnesota. So you are going up against a big mountain when you go against that, because the police have a lot of reasons to stop you. But is that reason to throw up your hands if you're being charged with a crime, if you're being charged with a traffic thing, and just saying, we don't got a chance, the police have so many reasons to stop me, there's so many laws, I should just give up? And the answer is no, because there's actually been several times in the appellate level and the Supreme Court level in Minnesota where people have challenged stops because the police didn't know the law, there wasn't an actual law, or they were applying the law completely wrong. And not only was a traffic stop or some traffic infraction thrown out, it was all the evidence that came after that traffic stop that got suppressed. And I'm going to bring up a couple different examples. You have State v. Kilmer. And in this case, this person went through a yellow light. And he went through a little late, and it actually turned red while he was just getting past the intersection. And the police stopped him, and there was other stuff that came about in this case. And he was convicted. But this went to the Supreme Court. And at the Supreme Court, they looked at the actual statute, and it isn't against the law to go through a yellow light. And it goes even so far as, even if you're in the middle of an intersection, you go in and it's yellow and it turns red when you're in the middle of an intersection, it's still not, according to statute, that is not breaking the law. That is not a traffic infraction. A traffic infraction, the actual thing is if you enter the intersection and it's red. And what happened in this case is all the evidence that happened after that was dismissed. And this is something that if you ask most police officers, they're not going to know. They're going to think it's way different. I've heard several different interpretations of this from police officers, from stopping people and giving them tickets for going through yellow lights, for going through red lights, and saying if you speed up, if you see it's yellow and you speed up to go through the intersection, that's against the law. And several different interpretations like that, but that's not actually the law. So that's something to keep in mind, is that when the police officers tell you the law, or you just hear something on the street and say this is the law, it's not necessarily the actual law. That when you look at what police officers are doing, is they're looking for people who are breaking the law, and they're looking to go catch them. They're looking for evidence for that, and they aren't necessarily experts on the law and knowing what the nuances of the law are. So that is something to keep in mind if you are facing criminal charges, or if you get even just a traffic ticket, is that it's not necessarily because they told you this is the law that is the actual law, or that's the interpretation of law. And another case of this is State v. Smith, is another one where people are very misinformed and very and I guess I should say that it's understandable, because those white lines, because this was a stop sign. This guy, according to the police, is that he didn't stop in the right place for the stop sign. He went through the stop sign, and that's a traffic infraction. He got stopped, and there's other stuff that came about after that. But here's the thing, is that the guy, he went past that white line, but he still came to a complete stop at the stop sign. It was just a little past the white line. And the white line is actually not the law. The law, the actual stop sign law, says that you are supposed to come to a complete stop so you're able to see both sides of the intersection, take a good look, and then go forward. And this came about even before State v. Smith. There's a very old court case with a stop sign, and it said the same thing, that that's the intention of the stop sign law. There's nothing about stopping before that white line. the police officers in this situation, they didn't have an actual reason to stop him. There was no traffic infraction that happened. So everything, all the evidence that happened after this traffic stop was dismissed. This guy was free to go. So this is something to keep in mind. If you're being charged with criminal charges and it comes about from a traffic stop, did the police have an actual reason to stop you? Did you actually break a Minnesota law? Because if you did not break a Minnesota law, you've got a chance to challenge that and actually get evidence dismissed because of that, and possibly, if there's not other evidence, like possibly get the case dismissed. So that is something to keep in mind. So I really encourage you to, as much as possible in this area of criminal law, if you face charges or you think, or I think it's just as good as a citizen to know these laws, that you learn your rights, that you know your rights, and that you assert your rights. Thank you.